Welcome to First Star Let's Chat, an athletic therapy podcast. I'm your host, James Gardner, certified athletic therapist, certified strength and conditioning specialist, yoga instructor, human being. This platform, for the pros, by the pros, anybody in the performance space, and beyond. Welcome here to share in the stories of professionals, experiences, journeys, learning along the way. It's a platform to connect, to network, and to be a part of a community that cares, with conversations that matter, experiences that resonate, and generate ideas, thought-provoking, organic dialogue, passionate pros. Brought to you as always by First Star Therapy, Mobility Tape, Epic, and Benchmark Athletics, in association with the Canadian Athletic Therapists Association. It's First Star Let's Chat, an athletic therapy podcast. Thanks for being here. Thank you for being a part of it. All right, so welcome to First Star Let's Chat. This is episode or session 35 with Kelsey Marshall from Brock University. It's an athletic therapy roundtable where we aim to grow networks, grow the profession, and really build out an integrative model of what dialogue can be in the sports performance space. Before we get going into the bio, let's go through the ground rules just so everybody has them. We are being recorded for the purposes of saving the world one conversation at a time and holding Kelsey accountable for all of the positive things going on at Brock and all the things that are changing in the world of sports performance. As well as archived to YouTube afterwards, and then now podcast version on a bunch of different platforms: Apple Podcasts, Podchaser, Podcast Addict. Anyway, a bunch of different podcast opportunities there as well for all of you willing and able. These sessions are brought to you by our primary sponsor, Mobility Tape. Mobility Tape is willing to extend their offer of one free roll of their product. The only heat-activated kinesiology tape on the market for all of you signing up for membership with the CEU program. With all that said, let's jump into Kelsey's bio and then let her say hello, and we'll get into this thing because there's a lot to talk about. Kelsey Marshall joined the team at Brock University in the 2018 season as a varsity staff athletic therapist. She oversees men's rugby and lacrosse, as well as the men's and women's volleyball programs. Along with providing the care to athletes, Kelsey plays a large part in student curriculum within the Brock Sports Medicine program for over 40 student therapists placed within various Brock teams. Her prior collegiate experience was at McMaster University, where she worked as a certified athletic therapist from 2015 to 2017 with the men's and women's rugby teams and the women's soccer team. She's worked with various levels and sports, including both national level and professional experience. Most recently, she worked with her hometown team, the Edmonton Stingers of the Canadian Elite Basketball League, where they won the 2020 Summer Series Championship, being the first North American professional level sport to return safely during the COVID-19 pandemic. We'll definitely be talking about that and your experiences with that. In 2019, she worked as a massage therapist for Bobsleigh Canada and Skeleton Canada on the World Cup Tour in Lake Placid, New York. In 2017, she was selected to act as a lead therapist with Hockey Canada's Women's Development Program, as well as Football Canada's national team for the 2017 IFAF Women's World Championship, and with the Hamilton Tiger Cats of the CFL in 2010. She has a strong passion for pursuing lifelong learning and is eager to begin her master's in applied health sciences this fall at Brock University. She's looking forward to continuing to be a part of the Badger community and bringing her experience and passion for sport rehabilitation to the varsity clinic, as well as playing a role in educating future practitioners. Kelsey, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you being here and letting us into that bio and all of the things. So much to talk about. So really appreciate you being here.
Thanks for having me. I mean, I've in great company, let alone just Steve and Vicky being on here, but all the other practitioners you've had on. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. You guys have a strong squad down at Brock. Not that it wasn't always strong before. You know, I'm a Badger alumni as well, and looking at the things that have evolved there, no doubt Joe and Jim and Karen and all the people that have been there for years and years and years have influenced that. As it currently stands, it's a really integrative model. And maybe let's start there. Sort of since you've been there, what have you noticed in sort of being a part of that team? What's your How do you see yourself in terms of, opportunities to lead, opportunities to learn, these kind of things within the team there at Brock?
Yeah, I mean, I think we have a special environment at Brock, and it's really awesome work environment. I think it's crucial for success that you have that type of integrated model, with it being SNC and Brock Sports Medicine. So, I mean, my boss, Steve Lidstone, he's been talked about and on here a couple times. He's a great leader. He's had experience both as an athletic therapist and an SNC, so I think he kind of understands the importance of that meld and fosters that relationship between the two groups. And yeah, I mean, I work in the varsity training room. I'm sure you remember your days in there. It looks a little bit different these days. We have upgraded it a bit, but it's a walk a couple steps away from our sports performance area. So I'm in there kind of every other day, like talking with Dave McDowell, who's the strength coach that I work most closely with. So I think for success of the athletes and success of the program, it's really important that everyone puts their ego aside and we realize where our strengths lie and work together to provide the best care. So
No, I think it's awesome. And for this summer, I had that opportunity to work sort of with and amongst you and your staff, and the strength and conditioning team down there through an internship opportunity. And you really feel that, you feel the integrative success of that model and how it works. And I'm sure, again, we talked about this with Steve and Vicky a little bit on here, but that sort of non-linear, linear success path of the varsity teams. Like volleyball was a pretty new sport to Brock, and they sort of jumped in and kind of took off right away, won some games, and soccer is up and coming, and hockey is very strong, and virtually every sport there now has a solid foundation. And I think there's a definite connection there to the support that they have through you and through S&C, and how it's kind of blended together. Do you have opportunities to sort of provide leadership to the S&C team as well, where you're sort of teaching them some things and working with them on a regular basis?
yeah, I think that's one of the great parts about it. I mean, we meet with each of our teams weekly. So, with men's volleyball, women's volleyball, men's rugby, we would meet once a week. Dave would be in that meeting, the head coach would be in that meeting. So whether we're talking about the injury report or their jump numbers or, practice structure for the week, open communication dialogue there. And then we've had the opportunity to take courses together. So we've done reconditioning level 1, all of us as practitioners and as strength coaches together, so that we kind of have one language that we're speaking a little bit is what we're trying to go for, to kind of bridge that gap if there is one. But yeah, I would say I have the opportunity to learn every day from them. So I would hope that they would say the same, and that they've felt the same way about certain things that I've brought to the table. So
Yeah, without a doubt. And you talk about that common language, and I think that's a key takeaway for that setting, because you're not always there, you're not necessarily around, but if the language is consistent, then the athletes kind of know what they're getting, and they don't feel like they have to go and talk to 5 different people to get the answer, or to actually know what they're supposed to be doing. Everybody can navigate that within the same framework, which I think is amazing. And I'm sure very appreciated on the athletes' part. Although they may not say that right now, a couple years down the road, looking back, they'll really appreciate that. So, no, that's awesome. And you talk about the training room or the therapy room, the athletic therapy room, the sports medicine center, as well as, your high performance center. I haven't been there in years. I'd love to get down there and see the upgrades. I'm sure you guys have turned those rubber tubs into a whole bunch of different things back down there by the wrestling rooms and the way things used to be there. But what a cool experience, and obviously more coming. Hopefully, if this COVID thing, we can get a firm grip on what's going on here and get a return gradually back towards the summer games coming next year, the infrastructure coming in there. But let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. You just came off of like the most amazing thing in the world. So congratulations. You're the championship therapist of the CEBL, right? Which is, was it in its, I think the league was in its second year. Is that right? I think that's right. And you're from Edmonton and you got to work with them. So tell us how that connection happened. And then let's go through, if you're okay doing so, that sort of pseudo bubble world and that return to sport there.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah, so this is the second season that this league has existed. The idea of the league is kind of to be, well, professional league for those playing over in Europe or Asia, or the G League, to have somewhere to play and develop and, pursue maybe a better contract post this season with their performance in that league. So I worked with the Hamilton Honey Badgers last year in the inaugural season. So it was a 4-month season. So a lot more time put into that, and like over 4 months, obviously. So I was unsure whether I could commit to that again, being full time at Brock. And then when they switched to the tournament format for this year, the president kind of, reached out to me and said, would you like to be involved? We would probably place you with one of the incoming visiting teams. And then it just so happened to be the Edmonton Stingers. So yeah, I grew into that role pretty quickly, and it was easy to switch over to them just with me having been from that area. And yeah, it was a great experience. The great organization from the top down, the Edmonton Stingers, from the coaching staff, the president, the players, everyone was really great to work with. So
that's awesome. And sort of right time, right place, right person, right? So even in this time of sort of COVID and not being able to do too many things, your experience in the league already, probably from being in the Hamilton area when that team came about, right? Sort of you were accessible, and then now even more so maybe as these other teams were coming in. So how did that work in terms of those teams coming in? It's not a massive league, and it wasn't a big schedule, right? It was just very condensed over maybe, how long was the tournament? Like 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks, something like this?
yeah, so in total we were there for a month,
Okay.
but the actual gameplay was done over 2 weeks long. So yeah, not not long at all, especially for athletes coming off maybe like the longest period of time they've gone without playing their sport. So that was kind of a big factor in that as well, to kind of manage as best you could. But yeah, I mean, how it worked was it was hosted in St. Catharines. We were encouraged, but it was not mandatory for us to stay at the Best Western. So there was 3 places deemed like safe zones, which were the Best Western where we stayed, the YMCA where we practiced, and then the Meridian Center where we played.
Right.
You had to have your accreditation to be able to enter those facilities, as well as have your mask on at any time other than the athletes, I guess, while they're on court. But yeah, everyone was tested at the beginning. There was a second testing opportunity done kind of midway when everyone was interacting with each other, just kind of as like a checkup. It wasn't mandatory, but it was offered for athletes or staff that wished to do so. And then, yeah, it was just kind of about managing that amount of load in that short amount of time. But I kind of describe it too as the first 2 days, everyone's like, yes, this is the best thing ever. We're back in sport. There's no worries. And then after those first 2 days, you're kind of like, well, this is like weird that we're doing this and no one else is doing this. And you kind of get those anxieties a little bit, both from the staff and the players themselves. And then you kind of get used to the fact that, oh, okay, like this is working. It's okay. So yeah, you kind of on a little bit of a roller coaster throughout it. But
Yeah, when I sort of got wind of it, and then obviously in talking to you and hearing you were going and being a part of this, and then coming on here, it's kind of like it's great. Yeah, that kind of that's exactly it. It's great at first where you're kind of scratching that itch to get back on the court or back on the floor or back whatever people are doing. I think she might have froze, so just let me check 1 second. But you can still hear me? You okay? Okay, you froze for a second.
yeah,
I hope you can still hear me. No problem. So for yeah, no, it's just like it's enough to scratch that itch. You know what I mean? Where it's been so long and you haven't played. It's like, yeah, finally, like that feels great. Like we're back at it. And then yeah, you step back and it's kind of like, okay, is this really worth it? Is this the thing that we're all supposed to be doing? Nobody else is doing this. So let's sort of navigate maybe away from the COVID side. Other than the only thing I want to touch on is like the compliance in testing and like the reality of this within the athlete and your role as a therapist. I'd imagine would be in overseeing this and making sure this was done sort of, with regulatory bodies and people were complying. So was there any hesitancy on people's parts in terms of testing within the sort of pseudo bubble of the CEBL, or was everybody pretty much like, this is what it takes, let's do it?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think any of us were excited to get our brain tickled, as people has described it, but I think everyone knew it was just a part of being involved. So I didn't think that there was any pushback. If anything, people wanted more regular testing to be done throughout the tournament. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, everyone was on board for that part of it. So, yeah.
Awesome. That's great. And I saw, I think I probably stole your picture as well from your Instagram account of you holding that trophy. What a cool trophy too, by the way. It was just like this amazing, like a whole bunch of Maple Leafs melded into, like, I thought it was amazing.
It's a quite dangerous trophy. So it's like,
Yeah,
everyone's careful, like it's very sharp. So yeah, it wasn't off duty when we won.
yeah. You had to wrap it in sort of like, I don't know, cellophane or something like that before you passed it around the room. Make sure everybody was wearing gloves. Nice. No, that's great. And the experience for you as a therapist, like a super condensed schedule with a bunch of athletes who, may or may not have been training to the capacity that they normally would, but now you're moving from like pro athletes who are playing on a pretty regimented schedule to pro athletes playing like like kids, like teenagers, right? Like a whole bunch of games in a very short period of time. How did that go? How did that go in terms of handling load and management on your end of things?
Yeah, I mean, I had reached out to the coach prior to going into the tournament. Just at Brock, that's all we talk about is like load management coming back from COVID and from quarantine. So I had that end of the spectrum where we're going to do it very gradual. And then I was brought into this summer series where that wasn't really an option. So
Yeah.
where can we add in kind of some load management? So it worked out for us in terms of for Edmonton in the fact that we didn't have 10 players to go full 5-on-5 until like maybe 4 days in. So
Mm-hmm.
some teams were going live scrimmage the first day they were allowed to be on court together versus our team, just because of numbers, we weren't able to. And so, we didn't see some of the overuse that other teams did. So whether that's, our athletes came in at a higher level, or was it because of the fact that we kind of gradually loaded as much as you could. And then we mixed in a lot of recovery. I mean, I don't claim to be a yoga instructor by any means, but I did a lot of like yoga and stretching sessions with them, and they were very, very compliant to that. And were seeking different ways, to do it themselves. And so I love that when an athlete wants to be empowered and take it to their hotel room and do it there as well. So give me some options in my room that I'm in all day long. What can I be doing up there? So I think it speaks to the guys on our team too. They were there, they knew what they had to do in order to be successful within the tournament.
Yeah, no, and I'm sure, again, very grateful and appreciative for having somebody like you who is not shy to, to go down those pathways and really be proactive with it and acknowledge that it's not so much the gameplay, but it's probably the recovery in these situations that's a greater factor. And so whether it's, a physical practice of yoga, or it's some breath work, or it's just coaching them on how to recover with nutrition or recover with hydration or some of these other things that are really, really key points that are often overlooked. And we look at load management as simply like managing minutes, right, on the floor for basketball. Yeah, no, looking back at, I don't know, the 2019 season, right, in the NBA with Kawhi Leonard, that buzzword of like load management was like, that was it. That was, Dr. The team with the Raptors and the doctors of the Raptors did a great job managing his like minutes, but it also takes the athlete taking that on, right, and managing all the other areas. Like for him, one thing I was always, not that we're talking about Kawhi Leonard, but one thing that I'm always really impressed with him is like the social media presence is non-existent for the guy, right? He's not out there just like Twitterizing the world with like, how he's cooking his eggs this morning, or these kinds of things. He's very locked in and dialed into what he's doing, and Maybe he has I don't know, an alias or something where he's using Instagram in another way, but no, I think it's great. And so you're able to jump in and support on multiple levels other than taping ankles. And I think these are the conversations that somebody in your role with your experience and the, the opportunity at Brock now to work with a team like you have, really goes a long way in sort of showing and showcasing what athletic therapists can be and what we can be involved in, whether we're overseeing everything or we're a part of something bigger. There's such opportunity for the use of the skill set, and your role now houses education as well, right? Like at Brock, it's an amazing thing, because I went there as an undergrad and there were people lined up to be student therapists, right? With the people that were there. Is that still the case? Steve mentioned there's a whole bunch now in S&C as well. How do you integrate that in your role, or what components of your role are dedicated to sort of education of future practitioners?
Yeah, I mean, when I came to Brock, that was one of the things I spoke to Steve about, as we kind of divvied up different responsibilities amongst the lead therapists. And I had said that I was really passionate about taking on kind of the student curriculum, and not necessarily like changing it a whole ton, but maybe like revamping it a little bit. Just with me being not too far out of school, I would have like the most recent touch point with kind of a Sheridan program and setting them up for success that way. So yeah, similar to the Brock Sports Performance program, we do have like a tiered model in terms of the learning style. So with it being a new revamped program, we're only in, I think this will be year 3 of it, of the curriculum. So this will be the first year that we have a rookie, junior, and senior level student therapists.
Okay.
But yeah, just building that curriculum, but then all lead therapists are involved in educating and contributing to that curriculum too.
No, I think that's awesome, and it really makes a difference for students. And looking back, I think I mentioned this to you when we were chatting, and I had like a good 25-minute conversation with Joe Kenny the other day, and Joe was kind of, I was under his wing, while I was playing varsity baseball there before I became a student therapist, and to have somebody who's willing to educate you and sort of go beyond in terms of going beyond the boundaries of the classroom and sort of showing you what opportunities are out there and how things can work and all these kinds of things, and the opportunities to get in the weight room with Steve and with Vicky and Dave and Taylor and all the people that are there as well. I'm sure the student therapists are continuing to flourish, right? And then you guys have a relationship with Sheridan and all that. So is there anything that you have seen in your time at Brock that really houses sort of characteristics that really work in students, and maybe some other things that, I don't know, that don't, as far as student therapists go? Are there things that you're looking for, or things that you find, maybe not that don't work, but things that you find you're giving advice on a regular basis that are, sort of consistent?
Yeah, I mean, I think you realize pretty quick, just probably in the field of athletic therapy as well, like who's in it for the backpack versus who's in it to actually learn and wants to be in that field. So just trying to really put the onus on the students as well of, we all sit down with each of our students that we're individually assigned to supervise and go over what are your goals for this season, whether it be practically or just professionally, and putting it on them to, we will foster that opportunity for you, but you need to like go after it and get after it. So because you'll sit down with students sometimes and they're like, well, I wanted to work on this, and I'm like, okay, well, there was ample opportunities to do that. So I think making sure that the opportunity is there, but then kind of putting it on them a little bit to go outside their comfort zone and make sure that they're attaining their goals at the same time.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And really, powerful to have that ownership shifted onto them, whether they realize it or recognize it, or we realize and recognize it at the time or not. That really makes a difference in sort of carving it out. And if you guys are giving out backpacks, like, let me in, because I think I need a new one. So if we can make that happen, let's figure that out. And after this COVID, like, I'll be the first essential Brock person to come to campus to get a backpack, because I'm in it for the backpack too.
So
Yeah.
there's alumni on it.
Yeah. No, that's fine. If it's like, we can make it cool. I mean, alumni makes you feel old, but that's fine. I am. What a great place that was for me and for learning. That clinic was really accessible, right across the street from the performance center, and some sports medicine doctors, and obviously Jim teaches STR as a course that's available to multiple practitioners, and I've had the opportunity to take it, to be a part of it, to advise him with some stuff when I was working in baseball, and then to kind of help him house that as well. So amazing. And then we go like your resume in a very short period. Looking back, bobsleigh and skeleton and women's hockey and football and all kinds of different things. How do those opportunities play into sort of your vision or your I don't know, your overall development, I guess, as a therapist? Like, those are great opportunities, and a lot of people sort of, drool and try to get to those opportunities. Like, those are goals, and I think they're great, amazing goals. So before we talk about how you got to them, how have those sort of changed you or shaped you, or how do you look upon those experiences now that you're at Brock, or you're still doing those on the side kind of thing? Let's go down that path.
Yeah, for sure. I think like one of my main passions is obviously supporting athletes pursuing their passion. So to be able to do it at any level, let alone once you get to the national level, is just really exciting, and doesn't say that there's not grunt work to be done at those levels, because there definitely is. So it's not all just shininess that once you get up to that level. But,
Oh, really?
they all bring like amazing opportunities, and I think within anything, especially like Hockey Canada, having been placed into that opportunity as one of my first national team experience, they have it down like a science there. So I've been able to carry that on to every opportunity, whether it be Brock or any other national team that I've worked with, or the Edmonton Stingers, and just that level of professionalism that they demand, the lines of communication that you stay within, and the level of support that is expected for the athletes, not only just hands-on, but also through educating them and making sure that they are empowered to take care of their bodies themselves as well. I think having that opportunity early on is something I'm forever grateful for, because it's shaped how I've gone into every one of those situations. So whether it be another team that maybe doesn't have those same standards yet built in, I'm able to go in there and portray those standards. So then they're like, oh, like, yeah, that is something maybe we should do, or that was really great that you did that. But to me, it's just something that's expected of me. So
yeah. No, some amazing takeaways on a personal level, but all of us can listen and relate and sort of take something away from those as well. And you keep coming back around to like a really a powerful word for me in my experiences and where I'm headed and currently am in sort of my career path, and that's empowering athletes. And I don't think until we have the opportunity to truly see and feel what that looks like, sounds like, and then actually is like, does that really come to light, right? And when you have that moment where you start to realize that shifting the ownership away from dependence on me to independence in you, it really drives things for athletes as well. And that relationship is enhanced, your relationship with them is enhanced. It becomes something, as being a part of something bigger than, just us as therapists, or just us as a therapist and an athlete, so you keep coming back to that. And I love that is a focal point. And I'm sure your athletes do as well. And everybody who gets an opportunity to work with and sort of around you, because that's kind of the main thing, for me is like, can we cut the cord and you be successful out there within you? Because that's the ultimate goal. We set you up and coach you, and just kind of having this discussion the other day, and it was more like, we as therapists or practitioners, I really feel are more like a modality. We're not healing anybody. We're simply on the most basic level trying to create the most optimal environment for either recovery or performance or whatever. And so, yeah, so to keep coming back around to that, I think it rings true, and your opportunities with national and international level, I'm sure, have really shaped that. Has there been any one that really stood out as like, oh my gosh, this is like, I'm here, and like a really sort of awe-shocking moment for you in your career?
Yeah, for sure. I just want to touch really quick on the empowering part. I think that a lot of maybe therapists, or even myself as a young therapist, saw empowering my athletes as like, oh, I'm taken out of the equation. But
Hmm.
really, it's like it allows you to do so much more, because you don't have to spend time on the stuff that could easily be done by the athlete. You can jump right into like what you're actually needed for. So yeah, I think that's why I always come back to that. Is I've seen quickly, as I've changed to more of that viewpoint, how much more I can actually get done when you're empowering and educating the athlete, versus it doesn't take away from what you're doing at all. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
but in
No,
terms
nice.
of which national team has provided me the most, or like the most, um,
Yeah, I don't know. Was there ever just like a moment where you kind of stepped back and like looked up at the lights or something, and you were just like, wow, like I'm here. How did this happen?
I think there was two moments that I look back on the most. Would probably be, first was the Hamilton Tiger Cats. They called it like the Make a Wish Foundation for Kelsey, like to be on the field, like during that game, and watching and being actually sidelined, versus,
Mm.
I've grown up around football my entire life with my dad being a coach. But I've always been up in the stands. So I just remember that. And that was the first opportunity where I was like, this is what I want to do with my life. Like, I want to be an athletic therapist. I don't mind waking up at 5 a.m. and not going to bed till 1 a.m. and working that schedule. So
Yeah.
um, yeah, I think that for me was one of the most pivotal. And then I go back to Hockey Canada when I worked with the development team, and I've grown up in a dual citizen household. So my parents are both American. All my family is American except for myself and my siblings. We're Canadian. And
Okay.
just standing on the bench, hearing the national anthem, I truly felt Canadian in that moment. I was working, the most Canadian sport. And yeah, for me, it was like nothing else, being on the side there and listening to the national anthem, and then getting to work with that team. So.
That's amazing. And yeah, I mean, just things you can't, like, it kind of gives you those goosebumps, and to hear you sort of talk about that aha moment of like, this is what I want to do and this is how I want to go about it, is kind of like that light bulb going off. And I was going to get to that question, is sort of, where did this all start for you, and how did you kind of navigate your way in? And from being a younger therapist and working your way through your career and my career, and looking back at sort of all these other people that are in these roles, it didn't just happen overnight. Like, you put yourself in successful situations by doing all the things you've talked of to this point, holding professionalism as a key contributor to your life and to what you're doing, understanding that there's going to be long hours and not so many thank yous on most occasions. How would you summarize sort of like, yeah, your path to this point? Like, lots of hard work, obviously, but how would you kind of, I don't know, how did you get to where you got to?
This is the like, tell me about yourself in the interview question. uh,
Yeah, this is it, going back. Yeah. Tell me about you. Yeah.
um, yeah, I mean, as I mentioned, I kind of grew up in sport, playing sports, my dad being a coach around sport. Um, when I was looking to go to university, I had no clue what I wanted to do. Maclean's magazine told me that Lori had a lot of school spirit. So I was like, well, at least I'll have like a good time while I'm there.
That's important.
Yeah, moved out from Alberta to Laurier, and when I was there, I applied to work with the women's basketball team as a student, kin student, and that's kind of where my first opportunity was. I mean, funny, at the time, I thought it would be less time consuming, so I was like, yeah, I can do that instead of maybe try out for a team or something. So soon learned that it's actually almost the opposite, where you're putting in more time than the actual athletes. So but again, through that position, and then it was in my second year going into third year that I got the opportunity to work with the Ticats. And one of my mentors amongst mentors, Chris Puskis. I don't think I would be where I am today without him. He let me come in as a kin student instead of a Sheridan student and work training camp. And then once I went to Sheridan, throughout my placements, I applied to be at Mac, knowing that he was there. And so I would have the opportunity to work under him again. And then I pretty much just pestered him every day in my 4th year to hire me once I was certified. And, right place, right time, as he always told me. They switched to a varsity clinic model there, and there was the opportunity to hire on a seasonal contract there. So then ended up at Mac, and then that's where I met Steve, and then ended up at Brock. So kind of came there, I guess.
No, what an amazing story. But the more stories we hear, the more stories I hear through this platform and just through networks of people is like, oh man, it's not necessarily who but it is. But it's I mean, I've repeated this on multiple sessions of this, but like, it's not who but it's who that knows your value, and that you can kind of align with, right? And it's not a matter of right place, right time. It's a matter of you setting yourself up to be in that right place and right time, whether you think about it at the time or not. But every decision you're making is a decision that's sort of guiding your future direction, whether you know it or not, whether you admit it or not. These are kind of the things. And you talk about mentorship, and Pusky's a great guy. Like, I met him when I was working at York with the football program, and just kind of like took me in as if he knew me for 10 years, and just kind of, introduced me to the docs there, showed me around their place, and just kind of all these things. But mentorship is a massive role as well, which you take on now and house within Brock, and I'm sure in other avenues as well. But one thing that I really, really find to be genuine and authentic is the willingness of therapists to I don't want to say give back, but like to provide what's been provided for them through other people in their past, willingly, and openly to share their experience and really help students and ATs coming out. And this is an interesting time now, and that obviously, like COVID and the pandemic and this provisional status of ATs coming out of school and kind of working in the space, but not quite certified, but kind of certified, but would have been certified 2 months ago, but doesn't have an exam. So it's an interesting time that I think we can do a really good job here in terms of reaching out to these people, having more networks, more opportunities like this to really discuss, what can we do in this interim period before you're fully certified, to grow the profession and to grow your connectedness within the community, right? Because for us, it was like, get out of school, write the exam, and boom, like get a job, get that job you've always wanted. You're going to have it right away. And that's not really the case ever. But at the same time, here now you have sort of a year where you can really figure that out. And then once you write the exam, pass it, do all the things you need to do, you can set yourself up with a year's worth of really high quality conversation and experience potentially, right? So I'm sure you see it in plenty of students that you work with, either Sheridan or Brock students there. But when you see that sort of fire in students, coaching it along is definitely like empowering for us as practitioners too, no?
Oh yeah, 100%. I think I look back at that moment when I worked with the TACATs, and I remember my dad saying, the door has been open for you. It's about now you have to keep the door open. And I was like, okay, yeah. So just, putting in that work ethic. But for sure, with working with students and now being in a mentorship position, I think about my time as a student and what I took of most value, and feeds off of feedback. So my students know that I can be a little bit hard on them. I try and, always do it with a smile, and we always focus on positive. But, if you're not here to learn something, I could tell you what you're good at, but that's not going to help you be better, right? You're already good at that. So I do remind them of things they're good at, but I do tend to also, provide a lot of correction and maybe we could try it this way, or, why are you doing that? Asking the why, and just really making them think about everything that they're doing, and taking the opportunity in front of them and making the most out of it. So but yeah, anytime I get a text from a student that's like, oh, I got into the AT program, or I got into physio, like, thank you so much. Like, I just remember what I felt like finding that out, and it just, yeah, it just gives you such a good feeling. And so that's why I really enjoy working with students too. So
Yeah, what an awesome opportunity to sort of be a little bit of everything, but at the same time, like really embedded within the performance realm, and that space of educating as well as educating athletes, therapists, future therapists, curriculum development, an amazing role, and I'm sure a lot of people on this chat and this call will reach out afterwards and try to connect as well, which I hope you're okay with, and I hope that people do reach out, because what a great role model, a great story, and sort of, you know, yeah, passion within this field and this realm goes a long way, and you live it, and you, I mean, if people are listening on the podcast or seeing it on the YouTube or seeing here live, like, you can feel it, and I think that goes a long way too, and it lights a little bit more in me, it lights a little bit more in students and other practitioners, I would hope, to continue sort of passing that flame, candle to candle. You don't lose your flame by sharing it with somebody else, you just grow the light, and that's kind of it. I think in this profession, as we continue to grow it outward, from the inside out, and that's sharing with other practitioners in different fields and realms as well. All right, shift gears. Let's go masters. You're moving in. You're moving in. I was gonna get teary or something. It was gonna get really, really excited there for a second. But moving into your masters in applied health sciences, I'm assuming like this fall it'll be mostly online, I guess, to start, right? Or is it delayed, or how's that looking for you?
no, yeah, I'm actually in class in person for
Yeah. Oh,
courses.
nice.
So,
Okay,
yeah,
great.
so for
So do you have an angle on it?
the graduate program's the one of the only programs I think at Brock that's doing some in-person
Okay.
courses. So
Okay,
smaller
nice.
classes, so like a third of the amount of people. But yeah, so
Uh,
I'm excited to go back to school, but I have that like first week of school jitters coming up. So,
yeah.
but I'm looking, yeah.
Just make sure you buy the pencils with the erasers on the end. That's all I'm gonna advise. And like have a nice little pencil case that you can fully zip up and unzip, but make sure it's quiet. You don't want to be that kid unzipping your pencil case and interrupting everybody, unless you do, which is fine too. But don't be that one. So I don't know. Yeah,
That's very
yeah,
valuable information. I'll make sure I
yeah.
take that on.
Yeah, yeah, you're welcome. I've lived this life as well. I went back and did my master's while I was working at York University, and it took me a really, really long time doing, working professionally and all the other things that are going on in life. But what a valuable experience. So, like, just where you can and when you can, fully invest in it, and I wish you the best with it. Are you doing coursework, or are you doing a thesis, or have you decided yet?
So yeah, despite my original thoughts of, do the coursework, get it done, Steve Lidstone was like, no, challenge
No, you
yourself.
need a why. Yeah.
So I think that's the part that intimidates me a little bit, but also really excites me to like contribute to the field and get going into that research. And I mean, I have this population of people right there in front of me, so I might as well, use them for lack of a better word. But yeah, I'm excited about it.
Yeah, no, I think it makes sense. It's a demographic that doesn't have a ton of published research out there, within the Canadian varsity sport and setting. And it's right there, and try your best to be intimidated, but at the same time, embrace what that is. That's my advice, is I was completely intimidated by even working with an epidemiologist, because I had to go and like Google what an epidemiologist was, and then go back and look at uh, you know, trends and these kinds of things. It makes a difference. It makes a difference for our field. It makes a difference for our populations that we're working with. And then you'll come back around and say, Steve, look, here's what we finished. Here's what we found. And we need to do less of this and more of this, maybe, or maybe it's a discussion point of like, look how well we're doing, or like, here's some other things. So I think that's great. And it's fantastic. And there are some really great profs down there doing good work. And you guys have such great access to the facilities now as well, which will, really enhance things on your end. So yeah, good luck. I think it'll be fantastic. You'll really enjoy it, I'd imagine.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned that I'm working with a group of a demographic that's not often studied. And then I'm going to dive even deeper, and it's going to be about female performance, which is something I'm really passionate about, myself being a female. And I just don't feel like there's a lot of research behind that quite yet. So yeah, I'm really passionate and looking forward to contributing to that. And I know my female athletes are too, so hopefully they'll jump into that.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I'm sure you have some people that you can reach out to for sort of some of the angles and what to ask and how to ask and how to come up with a question. But if you need a couple, I know a couple really great researchers that are ATs as well that have guided me and have really, I started geeking out on the literature now, and I know how to read articles a little bit differently. So you're not like, oh, the title of this article tells me that hamstring Nordic curls save everybody from ACL injuries. But then you read into the actual, the actual literature, and you see kind of, how this was developed, why this was developed, who's paying for the study, all these kinds of things that really allow you to develop a little bit more of a critical eye to what is evidence and what is sort of biased evidence for, these kinds of things. So I think it makes sense. I think it's amazing that you're doing it amongst all the other things that you're already doing. And listen, I want to come back around to this empowerment thing, okay? Because you've talked about it with athletes, and you've talked about like load management with athletes, and this is kind of a good segue to a plug, but not really a plug. I think load management for the therapist is a thing that we also need to consider. So like if I'm coming back around to doing studies, I'll look at the therapy group as a demographic and look at burnout rates, and the amount of time that we spend dedicating ourselves to all the things that we do and all the athletes that we help. Not to say that that's a bad thing, not to say that is not warranted, none of those things, but dedicating some time to ourselves and making sure that we're acknowledging, what we need, and we're fueling ourselves with the things that continue to drive us, and all of these things is massive. So I have kind of developed a retreat style weekend, and then 4 weeks of follow up afterwards. And I'm just going to put this out there since this is a public forum and mostly therapists on here of different backgrounds. Any therapist, any nurse, physician, chiropractor, anybody welcome to come. And it's September 24th to 26th at the Nottawasaga Resort and Inn. And I'm leading this from a place of, I've truly recognized the need in myself to take care of that first. And when I take care of that first, that it being myself, it really echoes and resonates out into the people that I work with, the people that I live with, the people that, I have conversations with, and it kind of reverberates into the environment that we're in. And it's reflected back upon us in that same sort of way, and so it's kind of a little bit of, for me, practicing what we preach, and so taking the time to deload, have these periods where we can do this. And so that's it for the plug. It's available to anybody who's in the field of care, models of care. I'm not a business guy or marketing guy, but I feel that there's a ton of value to taking the time for ourselves and really building this into what we do. So that's it for that. And let's speak on that a little bit. What do you do for you to sort of manage your time? I mean, I know there's 1 a.m. You're up till 1 a.m. and sometimes you're ringing the bell at 5 a.m. to get back up again and go after it and do these things. And do you have sort of a ritual or a program or anything that you follow to sort of take care of you and your time outside of everything else that you do?
Yeah, I think it's something that I'm still working on is making sure that I have balance in my life, and actually realizing that the better space that I'm in, the better I am at providing care for my athletes. So obviously there's going to be fluctuations throughout the season where it makes it very hard to have that balance completely set. But things that I like to do, I play in a women's basketball league still. So,
Nice.
Wednesday nights are my early nights at Brock. That's the day that I leave by 5, no matter what. I shouldn't say no matter what. If something big happens, I stick around and make sure it's dealt with. But other than that, everyone knows Wednesdays I leave. I try and make time for my friends, although they do know that in the fall, that's typically a little bit less so than at other times of the year.
Right.
Whether it's yoga, but just trying to kind of incorporate more of a schedule into my life where it does involve things that like I really look forward to other than my job, because I do really look forward to my job. But it's amazing how many people within our field. And, one of my colleagues, we're the exact same, where we just want to give, go, go, go. And we've been mentored that way. Chris Puskis is like a workaholic upon workaholic,
Mhm.
an amazing guy, an amazing family guy as well. So I think we were all learning at the same time to try and make sure that was still part of our lives, and the importance of that being a part of our lives.
Yeah, and so I'll house that as an opportunity for therapists to start speaking that as not necessarily a badge of honor to be the busiest at all times for everybody else, but really starting to carve in some time, whatever it might be for you, for us, for because when we are a little bit better as ourselves, and taking some of that time to reflect, we really do produce for other people on a different level, and a level of connectedness maybe, and we can see it in other people too, maybe a little bit more once we can reflect on it in ourselves. So piling the plate up is a thing that happens, right? Like on a regular basis, and like sometimes we pile it up so high that we forget there's even a plate at the bottom of it. We just have so much there to take care of that we never get back down to really to the bones of it, to the foundation. And that begins with and ends with ourselves, because if we're not there to be there for people, then we're not there to be there for people, right? So we got to start it somewhere. So that's kind of a talking point for me as well. And I hope that this kind of takes off, not for my own sake as part of a marketing business plan, but for all of us as therapists to dialogue on this level of like, it's okay to be tired, and it's okay not to put in 14-hour days every day of the week. Like that's okay. And we need to start to acknowledge that on a regular basis. And I think it starts again with conversations like these, and hearing that, there are other ways to manage, that you don't necessarily have to be, there till 1 and up at 5. I know that was just an example, but it doesn't happen all the time. And this isn't a knock against Brock or anybody or anything like that. This is just that, we've all, anybody who's been in sort of these roles understands this. I spent a lot of time in baseball where the work hours were completely opposite of what everybody's regular work hours were. Go to work at noon, everybody's already at work, and then you're there until midnight, and everybody's already done work, done dinner, and in bed. So you can't even have uh, have a conversation, some nights and some days, just because that's the way it goes. And it's unfortunate, because sometimes it's like, well, the only way that you can stay in this field is to be able to do that. And I think as we start to talk about and look at the realities of it, we do such a good job now talking about where we started here: load management of athletes, and load management of the other things. And this brings me back around again to like sort of the model that you guys have at Brock, where there's a bit of deload for you because of the amount of preventive stuff or deterrent stuff that is happening in the strength and conditioning room. Is that a fair sort of assessment? Like, it's a very divided now in terms of who's doing what and roles and assignments, and the blended model allows for some freedom to kind of spend, I guess, time in different places.
Yeah, for sure. I think when you have a trusting and open communication type relationship with your strength and conditioning staff, I feel 100% confident in sending one of my athletes to do their return to play programming in the sports performance center, not under my watch, but under Dave's watch, or, having Dave collab on that programming as well, right? And me collabing on it. And it's not just me building that programming from start to finish. So it does lighten the workload, and I'm very fortunate to work with the people that I do. So yeah, for sure.
Yeah, no, and I think it's a great model for sort of some of the, not to say that it's not happening other places, but I have some pretty open access to what's going on there, being an alumni, having access to, to people who have worked there or are working there, and just asking questions about what's going on, because it feels like it's a hugely collaborative space, and it kind of does allow you to be a leader, allows you to have access to other leaders, and sort of work together, right, and build it out, and I think that's massive. Yeah.
I think a
All
lot of
right.
people take pride in being an island by themselves, and you know,
Yep.
but I take more pride in when we've successfully done it together, and celebrating that together. Um, you know, when we have an athlete going through ACL rehab, and we've both worked through it together, and then we get to see them on the field, and they score the first try. Like it's just, there's so much more in that than being like, well, I did that from start to finish. So and yeah, then it definitely gives you some time to yourself so that you can reload.
Yeah, no, nice. And I don't know, I've done a lot of reading sort of outside the field and outside of whatever, and I kind of refer to it as like ego as a plus and ego as a minus. And when ego is working as a minus, it becomes problematic, right, in the environment for collaboration and for ultimately for development. So ego as a plus for me is like where we start to really address that self component. I'm at my best. If I'm at my best and I'm able to provide what I can. That doesn't just mean I'm able to provide and dictate, but I'm also actually better at listening. I'm better at understanding, empathizing with athletes, all these different things. So that's where the positive side of ego really plays in. And we won't get into the debate of whether ego actually exists, because that's a whole nother segment on somebody else's podcast or Zoomcast, I think. And I'm not even ready to sniff. So awesome. So we're getting close to an hour here, and I promised it would be right around an hour. So if anybody has anything for Kelsey, just pop your mic, unmute, and feel free to ask away if you're comfortable doing so. Otherwise, just into the chat box down at the bottom, and I'm happy to filter it over, Kelsey, as they come in here just for the next couple minutes before we get going. For everybody who's on here live and for everybody who's picking this up, really appreciate your time. This is the beginning of something. It's the conversations, and it's the dialogue and the opportunity to speak with and from and to each other that really kind of help grow, whether you're an athletic therapist or a GP or an MD or whatever it might be. All of these things are massive to get into the conversation and just build the world of performance. Just want to say you've always been so dedicated and passionate, Kelsey. So happy to see all the success that you've earned, and that's coming in from Julie at Sheridan, which is that's a big compliment, and I'm sure that's powerful for you as well.
Yeah, thank you so much, for sure.
Yeah,
it's Julie in that office. So
well, yeah, I think, and again, like mentorship and some of the people that are involved in programs, right? Like they really house a lot of things that we sometimes don't even ever think to reach back and say, like, that one conversation really shaped me into a component of what I'm doing now, and maybe into ultimately who I am as a person beyond just being a therapist. So yeah, so if anybody has anything else, please pop it in here. Otherwise, it's me again, and nobody wants to hear me speak continually, because that just becomes a thing that I can do that. I can do that for days if we need to. But we had so COVID, and like you had an experience with the CEBL. That's awesome. The high performance group with the CATA reached out and asked me to host another COVID discussion on Wednesday. So this Wednesday coming, I think it's on Microsoft Teams. They sent out an e-blast to certified athletic therapists and people in the therapy world, with 3 therapists that are in the pro sports world as well. So it's awesome to hear it. It's like, here it is, like timing as always. You're the first. You came through successfully and kind of leading the way. So that it must be cool to look back now, but you kind of like wipe your brow. You're like, whew, made it. All right.
Yeah, my last round of testing, I was like, oh, okay. But
yeah.
I think it was really cool to be involved in that type of bubble, in the sense that, like, sport around Canada can't really mimic the NBA. We just don't have those type of resources. So and then also just getting kind of that like return to work anxiety out of the way. I thought I would be just purely excited, which I think the first 2 days underneath my mask was just like ear to ear smiles as I was treating people. Then
they can still see it.
Knowing that that was going to be normal, and now being able to help kind of my colleagues at Brock while we're going through this, be like, yeah, it's okay. Like, you're going to feel that way. And then after a while, this is the new normal. So I'm excited to see what that panel has to say about how things are going in a true bubble and how that works.
Yeah. And it'll be interesting to hear. But I also felt like coming into this whole thing with sports and pro sports, even though they do have many more resources than most, there's probably quite a bit to be learned, in terms of what's necessary, what's not necessary, how much panic do we have to put into this, how much of this is fear driven. And again, like in our area, washing things down and spraying things down and, wiping surfaces between patients is hopefully fairly common practice anyway to begin with, just based on, bodily fluids and all people moving in and out of these kinds of things. So it's maybe more managing the crowd a little bit more and the flow of traffic and these kinds of things. So a question just coming in regards to CEBL and COVID. Were there any athletes that had gone home to the US or elsewhere? And were there different testing protocols for local versus non-local players?
Yeah, so each team was allowed to have up to, I think, 3 Americans on their team. So they arrived 2 weeks prior to anybody else, and were quarantined within the hotel under surveillance. There's a security guard there, and then they went through the same COVID testing as the rest of us. So
yeah, no, it's interesting when you get into sort of like the international waters and what rules they're following and whose rules they're following and how they can get into the country. Like anybody who kind of watched that the Blue Jays go through the the up and down, and we're going to play here and no we're not, now we're going to try there and that's not going to work, and then this city's not going to work, and then to come to where they came to, similar circumstances. But I think all of us need to sort of stay up on what the protocols are in Canada, and if we're dealing with international athletes, to truly consider what that's going to take. There's obviously certain exemptions to get into the country, and that still holds like that 2-week quarantine once we get into Canada, regardless, before entering wherever it is, school or sports arena or whatever it is that people are entering. So really good question. I hope that was sufficient to answer. And Kelsey, your experience is massive, and I'm sure people will take this and reach out, not only with COVID and the CEBL, but what a powerful personality and just passion in this field. And it's amazing to get you on here and have access to you for this amount of time and sort of beyond. So I'll let you go here. It's been an hour, and let's keep it there. It's been fantastic. Your shares and your cares are far reaching. This has been First Star Let's Chat, an athletic therapy roundtable session 35 with Kelsey Marshall of Brock University. Kelsey, once again, thank you so much. This has been fantastic.
Thanks for having me. I had an awesome time, and thanks everyone who joined in, and feel free to reach out anytime.
Awesome. Fantastic. So I'll stop recording.
Thanks again for being here. Thanks for listening. Thanks for being a part of this community. Check us out online, firststartherapy.com. That's FIRSTAR therapy.com. Or email us with feedback, consult@firststartherapy.com. CONSULT@firststartherapy.com, on Instagram @firststar.therapy, and our podcast host @letschat.at. This is First Star Let's Chat, an athletic therapy podcast.